library moments and memories. Tea time! When I was a little girl, I used to love playing tea party with my sister. And I wanted to always think that I was from England. And I would put my pinky finger out and I would hold my spoon just so, and I would take a sip of my tea from my saucer. I love it. Nothing like a good book to go with your cup of tea. Today, since tea in England, we'd look at some writers that came from England, and my most favorite, the one that we're going to spend much time on, are the tales of Peter Rabbit and his friends by none other than Betrix Potter herself. She had a fascinating life, and the story behind the stories of Peter Rabbit are very interesting. Her name, Beatrix Potter. Beatrix was born on July 28, 1866, in London, England itself. She was the daughter of Rupert and Helen Potter. Rupert had studied to be a lawyer, and Helen was an artist, an artisan of her own rights. She was one of the best embroiderers and watercolors of her day. And Rupert, he was a lawyer, but never practiced law. He too had a passion for art. It was photography. So he spent most of his time taking pictures and practicing the art of photography. Her mother was determined that Beatrix would be a fine young lady and had her raised and schooled by her very own nanny and governess. This governess became very true and dear to Beatrix. She lived a very solitary life. She looked most forward to the times that she would go to her country home in Scotland and the one in England Lake District. She enjoyed these homes because it was the one time that she would escape out into one of her favorite things, which was nature. She and her brother would sneak animals into the cottage, and she would practice drawing them as they would hide their newfound wild pets from her parents. She learned to draw animals during that time, and in her young adult life, she started to sell those pictures to be used for greeting cards. Everyone enjoyed the works of Beatrix Potter, but she started writing and kept it all to herself when she was a young girl at the age of 12 and 13. Let's discover her children's books. She wrote the story of Peter Rabbit actually because she knew what it was like to be closed in. I'd say if Beatrix Potter was still alive today, she might send you a story, knowing that we are locked down into quarantine because she knew what that was like. So she entertained them with the story of Peter Rabbit. She thought that Peter Rabbit much represented her own desire to kind of step outside of what was expected of her and get into just a touch of mischief. So, as she would write these stories, she would mail them to the children a chapter at a time, and they would anxiously await the arrival of the stories. Well, in 1902, those very stories and drawings fell into the hands of Frederick Warren and Company, who published her stories. They published them. They could not even keep them on the shelf. They were sold out immediately. In the meantime, they assigned her an editor whose name was Norman Warren, was her personal editor, who she adored. As a matter of fact, Norman Warren proposed to her in 1905. In 1905, after he proposed, her mother objected to this proposal and said she must not get married. Her mother was determined that Beatrix would stay home and take care of her parents as they became older. This broke her heart, but even more broke her heart. Mr. Warren became suddenly sick, and he died just weeks after asking her to marry him. She was so distraught, she decided to move to a hilltop farm in the Lake District. While she was on the farm, she wrote 2 more of her children's books. She wrote The Tale of Tom Kitten and The Tale of Samuel Whiskers in 1908. In 1913, she married a local lawyer whose name was William Hills. After marrying, she only wrote 1 other book. However, this book was very interesting. The book that she wrote was called The Tale of Little Pig Robinson, and she would not allow that book to be published in England. She said it could only be sold in the United States. For this book, even though it was a children's book, this book, she said, was too much of a reflection of her autobiography, and she did not want it published in England. She soon quit writing for publication and turned her attention to farming when she died on December 22nd, 1943. However, right before she passed away, she met with her cousin and told him of a secret journal that she had written in code. She wrote the whole journal in code because she thought for sure that her mother would think it unladylike, the things that she was saying in her journal, for she was not to express her opinion in such a way, and she was a very opinionated young lady. So she put it in code so she would not get discovered. So he had kept this treasure, and it was handed down with her estate. It was not until over 100 years later, in the year of 1966, that they broke the code in her journal and found the wonderful thoughts that she had about politics and art and things that were going on in her day. What a wonderful journal to get your hands onto. It is called The Journal of Beatrix Potter. She's a fascinating lady who wrote wonderful stories that have been adored for hundreds of years. And many, many years more to come. From the hundreds of years, starting with her love of nature as a young girl, leading all the way into her adult life, Beatrix Potter made a difference, bringing those illustrations to life, making children and adults alike enjoy her stories about the wonderful creatures of the forest and the woodlands that relate so much to us in our lives. I hope that you've learned more about Beatrix Potter and it has intrigued you to want to seek more into her journal, her thoughts, and her life, and to explore the many books and stories of Beatrix Potter. Please don't limit yourself to Peter Rabbit, for there's many other wonderful tales to be told and to hear. So read on, learn, and enjoy. And the next time you're out in nature, you may take an opportunity to stop and think of Beatrix Potter. Get to know the authors behind the books because they have fascinating stories that lie behind the stories. Thank you, Beatrice, for bringing us your life, your dreams, your visions, your love for nature, and Peter Rabbit. Until next time, keep reading and find out more about the authors behind the story.